So your question is how to tell if she likes you or not? Man, we could talk for hours on this. In the interest of time, though, I'll give you 3 minutes worth of gold that will take you a long way, and we can chat offline afterwards if you need more clarification. So, first of all, what's your situation? Is it one for a chick you already know, two for a chick that you just met, or three for one that you haven't met yet and you just want to know for next time? And when will you be seeing her again, do you know? Okay, great. So those types of situations can work out pretty well. So here's the 3 steps to making the right move then. So first of all, you want to assess the situation and decide on your risk level. So you're going to be at a party with a chick that you've met once. You'll be at a party with a couple of mutual friends as well there. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a relationship do you have with those friends? Okay, so a 6 or 7. So it's like they're not super good friends, but they're still your friends. So, if you make the wrong call that you think she likes you and she doesn't, it probably isn't the end of the world because you don't have to see them every day, but it's still not ideal if you made the wrong decision. So I'd call that a medium risk, which basically means that you do still have quite a bit of flexibility in how you go about pursuing her as well. So that's step 1, is to identify your risk level. Step 2 is what I call pre-intel. So that's basically where you'll learn what you can about her ahead of time, where possible. So in this case, you probably know her first and last name. You could look her up on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And I'm not saying to stalk her, but get some info about her so that you have a better idea about what kind of girl she is. So does she have a lot of friends? Doesn't she? What are her sort of interests? That sort of thing. Get some kind of reasonable idea up front if you can, but you don't want to come off as if you know those things when you do meet her. Just keep that in mind. So that's step 2. Step 3 is basically what I call baselining and monitoring. So what you want to gauge here is how does she interact with other people and how does she interact with you. So when she interacts with you and other people, what you want to be looking out for are combinations of what I call the 5 power indicators, and those are touching, looking, smiling, laughing, and question asking. So does she touch you? Does she look at you, and how often? So how frequently? Every now and then, very regularly? Not at all. Does she smile at you? Does she laugh at your jokes? And is she asking you questions? So it's not enough that she asks you general questions. The sign of interest is basically, is she asking you identity-based questions? So by that I mean, is she asking you questions about your job, what you're doing, how you got into it, do you like it, how many hours do you work? Those kinds of questions, she's trying to get a gauge for what kind of guy you are, who you are as a man, because they're identity-based questions. That's a really telltale sign. If you're talking to a chick and you're just having a very vague, sort of general conversation, she's not asking you questions about you yourself, she probably isn't interested. Now there's those 5 power indicators, and if you do get multiple combinations of those, then you are typically pretty good to make a move. But many girls can be tricky, and guys will get confused at the next trick that girls can do, and that is that they'll give you what's called an IOD, or an indicator of disinterest. And this is what confuses a lot of guys. As an example of the difference between an IOD and girls as being tricky, I was recently at a friend's birthday party. He's 35, not married. We're at a karaoke with about 10 other people, and this girl I was interested in and had been tuning all night had been throwing me heaps of signs, and we'd been hitting it off pretty well. And we were having a good time sitting next to each other at karaoke and singing songs together, but it wasn't super clear that I was all the way in yet. And actually what she did once we finished singing one of our songs was sit over on the opposite facing couch with 2 of her other friends. And so I was just sitting almost by myself with a big gap where she was, and then one other dude sitting next to where she was. And it was pretty much like she was sitting on her friend's laps over on the other side, and so it looked pretty awkward. And I was kind of like, well, what have I done? Why has she all of a sudden gone and sit with her friends, and I'm sort of here almost by myself. And I knew that I couldn't show that it annoyed me, so I kept singing, having a great time. I went out for a drink. Came back, and when I came back, she was basically sitting back in her original seat, which was next to me. And so we kept talking, having a good time, and singing along. And she actually did this like 2 or 3 times. I kept on going over to her friends and coming back. And at first I thought it was an IOD, because I thought, she's just gone and sat with her friends and she's not coming back. But the key difference between an IOD and girls just being tricky is basically moving back and forward, so giving you a bit of an IOD, but then coming back with another IOI or another indicator of interest. And basically, because she did that, I knew it was a test. So you've got to keep stuff like that in mind, because chicks can be tricky, and so make sure that you don't give up. You've got to stick with it. Does that help? Perfect.